Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the department for inviting me. It makes me nervous. Sachin Tendulkar or Rahul Dravid, I don't know who. At the end of the career, they said, each time they go out to bat, they have butterflies in their stomach. When I see all of you sitting here, I'm not a speaker, I'm a writer. So whenever I'm asked to speak, I'm nervous. But I try my best to somehow communicate something. I come all the way from Trivandrum on a rainy day. When I left Trivandrum, it was dark, it was raining. I left home at 4 o'clock. Why? Because I'm passionate about writing. I don't know about you, but I'm quite passionate about writing. My topic is creative writing and publishing. I just touch upon a few things about my journey, my arduous journey to get published. I started writing, I think immediately after Arundhati Roy published The God of Small Things. I thought I was working in a newspaper outside India, and I thought I too have a story, a similar story from a quaint little village from Kerala. And I'm sure all of us have a story, at least one. And I believe everything has a story. This book has got a story, everything. So there is nothing without a story of its own. Then I wrote down the first sentence, and I want to write because Arundhati wrote. She got Booker, and I also want to write. I also want to win a Booker. So I started to write, but I don't know what to write. I used to write poems because everyone is a poet these days. Sorry, everyone is a Facebook poet. Sorry, but then I used to scribble down lines and words in which I thought were, poetry. But sitting down in front of my system or, in front of a paper, I want to write something in prose at a tough time, Nothing is coming. I stare at the blank page for long. I'm going to tell you, and there's something called the magic of writing, That happens only when you start writing. I got 2 books out. This is Cliffhangers from Aleph. This is Shamal Days from HarperCollins. I just finished next 2 novels. They are with my literary agent in Delhi. Soon they'll be out, hopefully. But the first book I started writing are not these. No, I started writing 20 years ago, immediately after Arundhati Roy wrote God of Small Things. And that book is yet to come out. That I just finished that. It went through draft after draft after draft. I call it Finally Father Died, first title, working title. But now it is called Tales from Khabristan. Khabristan is cemetery, Khabar. So what I'm trying to say is, writing is a painfully lonely affair. It sounds romantic to be a writer, it sounds romantic to be writing all the stories, but let me tell you, writing is a painstaking effort. It is not easy unless you have passion. I stress passion. Writing stands on 2 things. One is passion, the other is skill. So once you realize that you have passion, you have urge, you want to write, otherwise you will die. Then you have passion. How do we write? I'm not just talking about English, I'm talking about any language. If you don't have the skill in language, you can't write. Because if I want to make this little piece of table, I need to know a little bit of carpentry. Writing is like carpentry. There are tools, there are pieces, there are, how you make it. You ought to have an outline, a plan, and a purpose. Why am I making a table? There's a purpose. So why am I writing? There's a purpose. So any writing without purpose is just rambling. I'm not going to discourage, but I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. Now why I'm telling you this? I crack my head telling them to read newspaper, read something. They don't. And I want all of you to listen to me. If you think I'm a bore, you can just walk out. But I want all of you to look at me and listen. Don't be a part of the shallow generation. Yeah, I love being with youngsters. I work with youngsters. I love my team. My team loves me. But I keep telling them, don't be part of a shallow generation. Whatever you do, go deep. My daughter is a cricketer. She stopped going to school at the age of at the 8th standard. She wanted to be a cricketer. I said, okay. So she stopped going to school, and teachers looked at me and down at me. Said, what are you doing? My family, pretty well known in those part of the world. They said, what are you doing? I said, what? My daughter want to be a cricketer. So be it. I mean, if she goes to an engineering college, medical college, they're all happy. Now she is practicing, training at Ravi Shastri's Academy in Chennai. She represented Kerala. Still long way. I said, if nothing works out, we will set up a shop and, somehow find a livelihood. But I told her, don't be shallow. If you're playing cricket, bloody play it well. Read about the game. Read about who are the heroes and heroines of the game. Read the writings on the game. So that's one part. I'm not just being partial to you. I always give a piece of my mind to my daughter, and my son is taken European languages in Manipal doing BA. I also tell him, read and go deep. Don't be shallow. Okay, now, I don't want to sound snobbish when I say don't be shallow, because I really mean it. If you want to write, I don't know how many of you really, love writing and are in this seminar because you're serious about writing. If you're serious about writing, read. Read in the sense, I work closely with Dr. Shashi Tharoor on different projects, especially literature projects, and he keeps saying that, he once read 360 books in 1 year. 365 books in 1 year. But he said, he was not well. He was kind of confined to his bed, so he couldn't do anything but read. So he finished before Christmas 365 books. He used to tell me, I read everything, even the flap. When I'm sitting in the toilet, I read everything. So that kind of a passion to read, we may not have that kind of passion, but at least read. Pick up the newspaper. Okay, don't forget newspaper. Pick up your phone and read something. I don't know, you're not liking me saying this, but that is fine. I have to sometimes be devil's advocate. I'm sure the teachers will love me, for saying this. Read something. If you don't read, you have no business of thinking about writing. I do a workshop on writing. I just want to. Hello. I never used to attend my classes when I was in college, so I can't complain. I was captain in my college in cricket, so every other hour I used to have a meeting or practice or Okay, do you have the urge to write? First thing to check, do you want to write, or do you have the itching or the urge to write? For me personally, to give you a personal, peep into my life, My wife suffered a stroke, very severe postpartum stroke, 19 years ago, and we were in Dubai, and she was on ventilator. My kids were, postpartum, so my son, like he was 4 days old. My daughter was just 1.5 years old. There I am, a young father. What do? I can look at life very, in a very bitter way, and be bitter and complain to God, complain against everything, because it was really against the run of flow in our life. We were like, look, I've just taken up editorialship of 2 magazines. She's also a journalist. She just moved job. It is there, what I want to tell you, I found my refuge in writing. I couldn't but write. If I stopped writing, I would begin to, cry or weep or be negative, or, And I keep telling my people I speak to, students like you, that writing was breath for me. If I was not writing, I don't know. Even now I say, I create a little corner in my room, in my house, to write, because that was my urge to survive. Writing was for me survival. I don't know. I hope you don't go through that kind of a experience, but I really want you to have that kind of urge to write. If you don't have, you can't move on in writing. Next is, let me ask you a question. Where is the notebook? If you want to be a writer, you ought to have a notebook. Now, we are old people. You ought to have something, a device to write down, We used to have a notebook here. I forgot. I used to have a notebook here. Now, why? Because that book, The Cliffhangers, grew out of one sentence I wrote down when I was in Doha. I was in a mall with my cousin. So he asked me to wait in a mall. He said, I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I was sitting there on a bench. And this sentence came to me. That day, the balloon went way far up. What is this? And I wrote it down. And immediately I knew this is about 4 boys on the cliff at Varkala. I come from Varkala. That's my hometown. I didn't know anything else. But I wrote it down. And the book grew out of that sentence. Okay? So, you all have fleeting thoughts. You all have ideas. We all have, because we think. So, if you don't write it down, these are fleeting thoughts. To just pass away, like a vapor. You can't catch it back. So, my advice as a writer to the aspiring writers, to have your notebook ready. Notebook means whatever writing device you have. Now I want to burst a myth. The myth of muse. Waiting for the muse to come, descend upon your shoulders and inspire to write. Nothing like that. I don't know about poets. They get inspired to write poetry, but prose, it's bloody hard work. Set aside a time. If you really want to become writers, set aside time, place, create your little corner of writing wherever, in your room, your hostel, your house, wherever. But this is the place I'm going to write. This is the time then I'm going to write, no matter what. So it could be early morning or late night. It's all your life, your timetable. So, but have a discipline. That's the only way to write. Because you can't wait for muse. Muse never comes. It's like waiting for Godot. I also did a little bit of literature. Okay, so we know waiting for Godot what happens. No. So muse doesn't come. You have to write. And it's not easy in the beginning, but as you get used to it, you see things happening. You see characters happening. And I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you from my experience. In the Cliffhangers, the Musa's mother just appeared before me. She is an angry woman, always angry. I don't know why, still I don't know why. She just landed, she gave herself a name, she started to talk to me, I just started to type. This is the magic of writing. You know, because that is my hour of writing. Characters begin. There's a blank wall before me, and I began to see characters appearing, talking to each other. I was just a typist. So this could happen to you also. But when you have a discipline, you know this is your job to write. When you create your little word of characters in your head, they begin to talk. Yeah, there is something called research and homework. Simple writing is hard work, lots of research. Now my next novel is actually based in Fort Cochin. I lived at Fort Cochin for 2 years when I was working with the Binale. I used to walk the streets of Fort Cochin, Matancheri, and I said my next novel, I started writing. My research was my memories of streets, the vendors, the people. So that's where but then if I'm writing about a town which, not familiar to me, then I have to go, travel, meet people, take down notes. That's why I say writing, when the book is out, when, people clap, you feel like a hero, but there is labor behind it. There is real hard work behind it. And writing, in the time that we live, writing I think is political, whether you are telling a story or not. It's a political activity. So you have to be really, really careful what you write. So research is also very important. Discipline, routine I talked about. So now where is the story? So you got set aside time, you set aside, you're sitting before, but where is your story? So how can we find stories? You tell me. Where do we get stories?
Is it personal experience?
It could be. Because unless you're God, you can't create anything out of nothing. We are human beings. We need something to create. Right? Only God created out of nothing. That's what I believe. But, as we need some material to work with. Wood, paper, something. So stories, there are many ways of looking at it. One, our memories, as I said, as ma'am said, it is personal experience. Then what? You suggest?
Meeting a particular person whom you think is different from others.
Of course. Yeah, it's something from the real life. Right? You meet a person, you are so captivated that person, you want to write the story. Yes. Do you have albums at home? When we were like 53, 54, we used to have albums. So we go back, flip through the albums, you see old photographs. You create. Yeah, each photograph is a story. Books, of course. Then anything, your reels, now these days reels are, anything that jog your memory or create and give you an idea. You only get an idea, you won't get a full book. Then you work. Short story is easier because it's a snapshot. But novel writing is like running a marathon. There is something called mid-novel crisis. You feel like throwing everything up, This is not working. That is called mid-novel crisis. You have to survive. It's distance runner goes through the same thing, the mid-marathon crisis. Because if it was a sprint, it is easy. Tuck, you reach. But this you have to go on and on and on, right? So that you need tenacity. Because I have been rejected many times. The literary agents will reject you. The publishers will reject you. Your friends will reject you. I used to go after my friends, my close friends. Please read this. And okay, I'll read it. Then I used to find it from my sheet of paper from under their bed, or under this thing. This is what you go through as a writer, as an aspiring, unpublished writer, because very, very tough. So,
family will say, why can't you do something more productive?
Yeah. Writing, as I said, it's a lonely affair. You don't know where you reach. Because I know my daughter, I go with her early morning for practice or training, 4 o'clock in the ground. We don't know where that journey will take her to. But she has to do it every day. She has to put in that, has to run in this rounds, So similarly, writing, I find I don't know whether this will be published. Now it's easier for me because I have 2 books out, to be very frank. But for a beginner, unless you are Arundhati Roy, you take the literary world by storm, So, I believe that there are people capable here, sitting here. I'm not looking down upon anyone. But for a normal writer, it's what am I trying to say? That story, experience and story, and you get an idea, then you develop an idea, mid-novel crisis, you develop. A novel is minimum 45,000 words, otherwise it become a novella, then short story. From 45,000 words to 200,000 words. So you will remember these words whenever you sit down to write, I'm sure, because this is, I'm telling you from my life, my experience, my journey. Now the craft. So craft, no one is going to give you on a platter. Here is a craft, keep it. No. Craft, you have to work on your craft. You have to work on language. I studied in a Malayalam medium, and I really struggled when I was working in a multimedia cosmopolitan newsroom in the UAE. I struggled to speak, I struggled to write, because that was baptism by fire. I thank for whatever circumstances for that, because that is what really conditioned me. Of course it broke me, but then it conditioned me. It helped me learn the craft of writing. I was working with some of the best editors I could work with, and those were the early days of internet. No internet, there's nothing, no Google moment to check, so everything we have to go and actually go through books to search. So it was really difficult, and but you can't learn craft unless you read. Okay, now craft. I have a cousin, you must have heard of him, Anis Salim, who lives in this. Anis is my cousin, and we grew up together. And if it was not for Anis, I would have been published, because I told Anis many times that I'm stopping, I'm quitting. I still remember once Anis told me that tenacity is a virtue. Hang in there. I started writing in 1998. I got published in 2019. So many rejections, they said, you're good, your writing is good, but sorry, we can't publish it. So, what happened is, after a point, you get used to this rejection letters. Their style of writing, their prose, how they start with, thank you for sending your manuscript to us. It's a privilege for us to read your manuscript. However, we are not, confident, or we are not in the right, situation to publish a book. Okay, but what happened? The cliffhangers. I got the letter from the publisher. I was looking, okay, thank you for sending your manuscript, but I was looking for the however. No, there is no however. Then the magic sentence, but if you choose to send your manuscript to us, we would love to publish. Wow, that was a moment of magic. So hanging in there, because publishing is not easy. I'm getting into the industry, publishing industry, because I closely work with publishing industry now, as in my capacity as a curator of literature festivals. Not only the writer part is secondary, but now I was in Delhi last week to meet all the editors in India to discuss about their new books. They want the festivals to promote their writers, so I work with the editors. So what am I trying to say? Craft. Publishing is not easy. They get a lot of manuscripts. We think what we've written is good. Yes, it could be good, but imagine the number of manuscripts and literary agent or a publisher gets in Delhi or Bangalore, or mostly Delhi, I mean we can't even think. The editor do not or does not go through the unsolicited copies. We call it unsolicited manuscript because they haven't called for it, unless it is sent by a literary agent. So if a literary agent works closely with the editors, commissioning editor, there are different kinds of editors, publishers and different kind of publishers. So an agent works closely with them. If an agent sends them the manuscript, they take a look. Okay, that's why we first have to have a literary agent, but we get rejected by the literary agent himself or herself. That even, I mean, I will reject. Only now I have an agent because I got 2 books out. So it is not easy. This is not a walk in the park or bed of roses. Nothing. This is very, very tough. But the good point is there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you are at it, you keep writing, rejections after rejections, one day it will get published. But you have to hang in there, So for that, quality matters, craft matters. Our story, our kind of writing. Recently someone sent me, because of all this, I also get a lot of manuscripts from Kerala. I'm thinking of starting a literary agent. I think good business there. So I get a lot of my friends or friends keep sending me manuscripts, and I say please send it to an publisher. I said it doesn't work that way, And I started reading. First paragraph, 5 mistakes. That too, grammar, spelling, all this. They will just throw it away. However good that story is, if there are mistakes, they throw. So you got to get your grammar right, your proofreading correct, your basic punctuation. That's very, very important. So don't depend on anyone else. You now everything is available on internet. You have to be smart enough to know where it is. So your grammar, craft is something else. But your basic grammar, spellings and punctuations are very, very important. This is what I see. After a while, because I was an editor in a newspaper, so not a reporter, so my eyes are trained to pick mistakes. So it's like when, in the beginning, when I used to give my, the page I've done to my editor, for me it's okay, mistake, no mistake. But the moment I gave it, he just used to pick like mistakes like this, and I said, wow, come on. But after periods, it's all about experience. Pick mistakes. So for an editor, the publishing or a literary agent, they pick your mistakes like anything. So once they pick, it is the distaste in your mouth. It affects the quality of your work. So they won't read beyond a couple of paragraphs. There ends your chance. So from writing, I'm moving into the publishing industry to tell you a peep into how it works. So you have to put in a lot of work if you are writing draft after draft. Don't take anything. I made a lot of mistakes. That's why I'm talking from my mistakes. I thought I'm going to be the next Arundhati Roy, and I wrote a few chapters and sent it to a publisher agent in the UK. I think I'm talking about this is in 1999 or 2099, I think. So they said, I slugged it as Indian novel. They got excited. Another Arundhati Roy. So they said, send me. So I sent a few chapters. They rejected outright. Then now when I read those, they're full of mistakes. So full of, no wonder they rejected it. So don't do a shoddy work. If you want to really get into publishing, put in an effort, break your sweat, work hard. What is the role of language? I would like to say, what is the role of language in a novel? I'm reading, right now I'm reading a book called Western Lane by Chetana Maru. This is Booker shortlisted. I think 26 we get to know who the Booker winner is. Very, very simple. It's about a family, 3 girls and a father playing squash. But the language is so simple. It's like, it's so simple that you can't believe it. So, but there are There are other writers who are, not easy to read. So work on your language. Language writing doesn't mean that you use high sounding words. No. In my book, no. Writing simple is the most difficult thing to, it's like a sentence should be something like distilled water. You get this much. But to get to that, you have to really work hard. So, work on your role of language, grammar. I believe I follow a writing coach called Roy Peter Clark. He is an editor, journalist in Florida. I can recommend his book, 50 Writing Tools. He said, it's not grammar rules, they are writing tools. We approach grammar as rules, right? Okay, so the grammar we approach as rules, but they are our tools. Like we need tools to make a table. Similarly, if you want to write, we want to create a sentence, we need tools. There are many ways to arrange a sentence. I have another file. We quickly get into different kinds of writing. So, how to write dialogue? What the voice? Thanks.
You can take a break and have your tea.
It's okay. And if they feel want to take a, yeah, I don't mind. No, I just quickly finish this and get into this. So, what is voice and point of POV, point of view? Hello. Voice is every writing. If you read carefully, has a voice. Someone will be talking to it. It should be first person or third person. If you don't hear a voice, that writing is flat. There is no emotion. So writing should have voice. Some people have strong personal first person voice. We know that someone is talking to us. That kind of writing, Some is third person, in a third person narrator. You all literature people, then you know that. But when you write, make sure that there is a strong voice and tone. What is the tone of your book? Is it humorous? It is serious? It is melancholic? Whatever. But you have to have a tone. Because when we submit stories to literary agents or publishers, they will send back. There is a mix. This is all happened. See, that's what I'm telling you from my experience. There is a mix of voices, confusing. The tone is changing. These are the remarks you get. So, the earlier you fix that, the better. And finally, know your reader. Who are your readers? Especially journalistic writing. You should know who we are writing for. And also, for example, I tell you the last Booker Prize winner, Shahan. Shahan is a good friend of mine, thanks to the festival. Shahan's Booker winning novel is called 7 Moons of Almeida. But it came out in India and Asia with the title Chat with the Dead. Okay, it was first published as Chat with the Dead. But it was rewritten with an editor and a publishing house in the UK and changed the title to 7 Moons of Moment. What happened? Because it was re-edited for a different audience. It was first written for Asian or Sri Lankan, Indian, Pakistanis, Bangladesh, everyone meant. But then they changed that. They know that it's potential to win Booker, but the readers are different. If we talk about our Asian usages, Asian, then it won't go down well with them. So they changed that entire writing. I don't subscribe to that kind of change, but then they did it because they know the readers. Knowing a reader is important. And it won a Booker.
So who does this change?
Editor.
The
Editor and the writer, they work together. A suitable boy, Vikram Seth, right? He stayed with David Devida, the editor, for 3 months to work on this. So that's how they work together. We in Malayalam publishing, there is no concept of editor. Everyone is the editor and no one touches that manuscript. But in English publishing, there is an editor who works with you. I know I need an editor because these are two different skill sets. Writing is a different skill set, editing is different. I mean, I have no ego to say that I need an editor, because sometimes I overwrite, sometimes I underwrite. An editor actually guides me. So, this is a way that you can, actually expand here, or this is too much, cut it down, or this plot is slightly different. So, you need an editor to work with. So, film, take a case of film. There's a film editor, the way you shoot and show, right? No, there is an edit, table. Importance of punctuation. I love that. I mean, you better get your punctuations right. There is a book called Eat, Shoot and Leave, So, this is more creative, paintbrushes of writing. How can you improve your description, paintbrushes. I call it paintbrushes of writing. Sensory elements. How can you make your prose smell? You have to work hard. There are, when you describe, you walk into a room, there is the smell of rotten cabbage. Orwell is written, I think, in 1984. I don't remember. The moment it is written rotten cabbage, you can smell it. So you have to work on the sensory words, elements of your writing. Then music can come in, sounds, clang, cling. These are. I mean, you really have to work on your redraft. I mean, you write, the real writing happens in the rewrite. There is a movie called Finding Forrester. You've seen that? Finding Forrester is a Sean Connery movie where the character is a Pulitzer-winning novelist. He is teaching young boy called Jamal how to write. So Sean Connery sits there with the typewriter. He is given him, Jamal, a typewriter, paper, and they're set. And Sean Connery tells him, "Now, write." He said, "What? Now write." So this boy looks at, let me think. Don't think. Oh no. When you write, don't think. You just write. So the boy looks at him and said, "Thinking and editing comes later. That's in the second draft." I know most of us stare at the paper and think because, you're not writing. Right. That's a practice. Hey, you give me something, then I write 500 words around here, what's happening. That's how, you work on your skill. So, the real polishing happens in the second or third draft. Right. So, then you edit your work, So, Finding Forrester, and it's a lovely movie of it's about writing. Writing a novel is easy, but writing a one-page pitch is, more difficult than writing a novel. In my experience, I mean, you write 300 words or, 70,000, 100,000 words, but to put all those into one page and hook the editor, you call a pitch. It is an art. We need to do that. Okay, let's start with something GK, general knowledge. No, don't worry. Just one question. It's also about literature. Okay? Which is the highest literature prize in India?
Is it money-wise or recognition-wise?
Both, prestige-wise, also money-wise. Okay, that's got, I don't know how much money that is, but I think Jnanapith is okay, prestige-wise. Yes, JCB prize. Okay, the JCB prize for literature, 25 lakhs. Who won it? Last week. Who won it? Please. Someone from South India.
That was the year before.
Gidanchali won the Pan Buka, Perumal Murugan. Okay, Firebird. Okay, let me just talk about a little bit about detailing, the magic of detailing when it comes to creative writing. See, I wouldn't have done this if it was journalistic writing, because journalist writing more factual than detailing. In creative writing, if you're writing prose, even poetry, some sort of detailing is needed. So I call it the magic of details. Look at this. When you see a person, the character, when people say my belly, it said, that's okay, that's my character trait. That's how people describe me. Body shaming, but what to do? There is no magic shortcut to reduce weight. That's a different thing. But character traits and details. When you write, when you're going to describe me, try and describe me. This man who's come all the way from Trivandrum, early morning, started to talk about literature, writing. How does he look? What is my characteristics that not impressed, but you notice. So that is called this boy. Look at that. This is why this picture I use when I actually teach creative writing. Look at him. He's dark skinned, but look at his eyes, blue. Normally, we don't see that. So there's something striking. So when you write about this boy, you can't miss this. So the points is arranging of words is not writing, okay? Mind it. You can't merely arrange words and say I am writing something. No, it's flat. Unless there is voice, there is description, there is life in it. How do you look for details that make your writing interesting? I can't teach you these kind of things. This is life lessons. I watch people more than I read books, because people are my homework. What are the character details that matter? How do you weave details into your storytelling? Now we got the details. So how do you weave those details into storytelling? Something called storytelling, the craft, the narrative. So you can't just take this and place it somewhere. No, that is like oil and water, separated. But you have to have the craft to weave details into your storytelling, into your narrative. See this, from the picture, this is quite evident that she's a well-to-do woman. All the trappings of a rich woman, character traits, setting, animals, names, this is a private jet, the clutch that she uses, the hat, everything, if you are going to write about this woman, then you have to notice all these things and take down, and even there is a saying in American writing that reporting, that if you can get the name of the dog, get the name of the dog. When you are asked to report something, for example, from that somewhere on the campus, and there is a little dog somewhere, and we get the name of that dog, get it. You may not use it in the story, but you have to get it. So get all the details. This is called the wealthy, but this is it's an old man. His smell, sound, weather, behavior, thoughts. Where could be? You can place it somewhere, and make your reader see the man that you are writing about. The homeless, obviously. Joseph Conrad once said that his task as a writer was, by the power of the written word, to make you hear, to make you feel. It is, before all, to make you see. So as a writer, if you can make the reader see what you're writing, then you're a writer. It's not I who said it, it's Joseph Conrad who said it. You have to, by the power of the written word. How? The power of the written word. The power of the written word. To make you hear, talked about sound, to make you feel and smell, and it is, before all, to make you see. So this is one point. There is some, it's a copy from St. Petersburg Times. Look at this writing. Belva Kent always left the front porch light on when her children went out at night. Whoever came home last turned it off. Until one day in 1974, when Mrs. Kent told her family, I'm going to leave the light on until Deb comes home and she can turn it off. The Kent's porch light still burns today, night and day. Just inside the front door, a strip of tape covers the switch. Deb never came home. The power of writing. I don't know, I get excited. I don't know about you, but I get excited when I read good writing. See, this is an example of minute details. Keeping a lamp light on all these years, just a tape there. This is emotional. It's taken from Atlanta Constitution. A Negro mother wept in the street Sunday morning in front of a Baptist church in Birmingham. In her hand she held a shoe, one shoe, from the foot of a dead child. We hold that shoe with her. You know, to get into good writing or reading, you have to get under the skin of the reader. Arundhati Roy said, my language is the skin of my prose or thought or something like that. See, you have to get under that skin of the writer. If you, I can't explain the last sentence to you. We hold that shoe with her. You know, it has to, you have to feel it. Because if had it been physics or maths, I could have proved that this 2 and 2 or whatever formulae. This is humanity, this is literature, this is creative writing. There is no definite answers. We can't reach, you know, I can't tell you A plus B, sorry, I don't know, whatever it is, you know. But this is literature, this is writing. But this is life. Character, how do you describe a character? James Coetzee, Disgrace, opening sentence. Have you read, anyone read Disgrace? I'm not going to disgrace you, but have anyone read Disgrace? You should read. It's a Booker-winning novel, James Coetzee. This is how it starts. For a man of his age, 52, divorced, he has to his mind, couple of things, solve the problem of sex rather well. On Thursday afternoons, he drives to Greenpoint, punctually at 2 p.m. He presses the buzzer at the entrance to Windsor Mansion, speaks his name and enters. Waiting for him at the door of number 113 is Soraya. He goes straight through to the bedroom, which is pleasant smelling and softly lit, and undresses. Soraya emerges from the bathroom, drops her robe, slides into bed beside him. Look at the power of verbs. I want you to look at the power of verbs. It's all present tense, you know, there's no past tense. This is drives, punctures, presses, it's all short verbs. Very powerful. We'll get into it later. Now, appearance and culture. I'll just read it out. The old man was wearing a suit that might have been classy 10 years ago when it was new, when it was worn by somebody with a body large enough to fill it in. On this man, it hung so long and loose that the pants backed at the ankle and scuffed along the sidewalk, and the sleeves came down so low that his hands and neck of his wine bottle were invisible. This is about the appearance of a man wearing an oversized coat and walking along the way. Again, I say, I get excited. I don't know about you. It's long. I just shut it. Now, this is a situation. How you describe a situation? This is from Marquez. No one write to the colonel. Should I ask the question? Have you ever heard of? Not you. Anyone there? Students? No one writes to the colonel? 100 years solitude? Love in the time of cholera? Who wants to be a writer here? Sometimes I'm going to ask tough, disturbing questions. If we are literature students, and when we say, see, there are, this point I want to dwell on. We had literature students, language and literature students. I did BA, my MA, both literature, language and literature. When we language and literature, we forget about the language part. We only look at the literature part. We mug up all these writers and everything. But what about language? What about language? What about the craft? The language gives you the craft to write, to do the literature stuff. You know, Salman Rushdie once said about Marcus, about magic realism. When we all hear about magic realism, Let me ask, magic realism, any idea? Magic realism? You all know. When we all hear about the term magic realism, we only hear the word magic. We don't hear realism. Because there is a criticism about Marcus writing that he writes something, anything as magic realism. So Salman Rushdie says that no, his magic stands on realism. His magic stands on life. I don't know about it, I get excited. So I'm going to read something from Marcus. Marcus is my guru, my Bible. Every day I read at least one para from Marcus, either Love in the Time of Cholera or 100 Years Solitude, something, because that it really gets me going, pumps me up to write. I want to close that book and I want to write. Now, if you read a good book or a good sentence or good paragraph, it so inspires you that you close that book who you want to write. That happens. The colonel took the top of the coffee can and saw that there was only 1 little spoonful left. He removed the pot from the fire, poured half the water onto the earthen floor, and scraped inside of the can with a knife until the last scrapings of the good coffee mixed with bits of rust fell into the pot. While he was waiting for it to boil, sitting next to the stone fireplace with an attitude of confident and innocent expectation, the colonel experienced the feeling that fungus and poisonous lilies were taking root in his gut. It was October. A difficult morning to get through, even for a man like himself, who had survived so many mornings like this one. For nearly 60 years since the end of the last civil war, the colonel had done nothing else but wait. October was one of those few things which arrived. His wife raised the mosquito netting when she saw him come into the bedroom with a coffee. The night before she had suffered an asthma attack, and now she was in a drowsy state, but she sat up to take up the cup. This is just an example of how a situation is described. Detailing. So what do you need to write in great detail? Keep your eyes and ears and nose open. Not only your eyes and ears, eyes and ears, but your nose as well. You pick the stench, the smell, the aroma, the fragrance. And what are the words that you have to describe? If you feel it's a beautiful aroma wafting into the room, how do you write? Observe, observe, observe. To become a writer, to become a creative writer, you have to do nothing but observe. Listen to the conversation. This is my best pastime. My children always chide me, Papa, what are you doing? Papa, don't listen to other people's conversation. I do that because I want stories, I want to listen to what the other people are talking in the next table, So, one sentence, one word, you get a story, some situation. So, yeah, listen. Note down physical features. Always ask yourself how to describe a particular person, situation, emotion, weather, mood, everything. So basically open your senses to situation around you. This is one of the assignment I gave to my students. Basically the story of this, story of this soldier. I don't know anything about this picture. Try to get under his skin. What is his situation? Unleash your imagination. Write it out. Obviously he is war ravaged. I don't know much about that. So that's about it. It's about the magic of detailing. I'm going to read now a little portion from both Cliffhangers and Shamal Days. Can I? I'll start with the Cliffhangers. The story of Cliffhangers is about 4 boys living on the cliff Varkala. I don't know how many people have gone to Varkala. It's a beautiful place. Please do come. It's my hometown. The cliff overlooks the ocean, the sea. This is about 4 boys bearing Muslim names. I'm not saying that they're Muslim, but they have Muslim names. This is a political novel in a way. Politics of names, politics of identity. And in that place, that's just the cliff. Then you have all the tourists there. Then there's a road. Behind that road is a very traditional Muslim village, community. So I'm going to read this. On Fridays, these people cook beef. So next to that place is the temple, and then there are a lot of Hindus and Brahmins live there. So this is a situation. Just going to read. On Fridays, the day of Jummah, our men don't. This is Musa's point of view. He is a storyteller, Musa. On Fridays, the day of Jummah, our men don't go to the sea. They get up late, sit on the threshold of the kitchen door, facing the sea, and enjoy their morning tea made with goat milk. Some of them would saunter across to the junction to have a glass of tea and chit-chat with the others at Pidambaran's tea shop, or go to Muni's shop to buy beef. After tea, some of them would bathe, put on clean clothes, and attend the noon prayers. After the prayers and listening to the Imam's message of victimization of Muslims around the world, they go home and eat beef curry. Munir has taken over his brother's butcher shop since he came out of prison. The shop is located near Usman's house. Munir slaughters buffaloes every Friday morning and hangs the ruddy chunks of meat on the metal hooks driven into the wooden plank on the ceiling of his shop. On other days of the week, he sells mutton. He also supplies mutton to Nizar's hotel, known for its pure mutton dishes. We often go there to have hot mutton soup. The traditional Friday meals of beef curry makes the atmosphere more tense, as by noon, pressure cookers in our part of the village begin to hiss and spread a strong aroma of beef being cooked in every variety of spices. The wind duly picks up the aroma and wafts it into the house around the temple. The first house on the other side of the hedge is the priest. His frail wife would cover her nose with the pallu of a sari and walk around the house muttering, "Shiva, Shiva, what torture is this? Can't you do something to stop this?" She would ask the priest, who, sitting in the front room, would think hard on how to bring an end to this olfactory offense. Why can't you tell the Shaga to take the matter seriously? She would urge him. He would look up at her and tug at the punul from the tiny coils of grey hair on the sandal-smeared chest. "I agree. We have to do something about it," he would say, and go into the bedroom to lie down, hoping the wind would not find him there. The wind laden with the beef curry aroma would invariably follow him, swirling around the room, rubbing against the clothes hanging on the pegs nailed on the lime plastered wall, and making its way to the other houses in the neighborhood. See, this is where we are now. The aroma of beef curry, which the wind picks up from one household, is taken to the other household, is enough to ignite a communal unrest. Beef curry is beef curry. The wind is wind. Wind doesn't know the delicacies and the communal tensions that we all live in. So it follows to the next household. For them, it is a cultural shock. On Friday afternoon, while they are eating sambar and kayam and all that, they get the strong aroma of beef curry, which is they can't stand. This is a cultural thing. This is political. This is India we are living now. No? That's it. That is about. So you better buy Cliffhangers and read all about it. I'll just read the last part of Cliffhangers as well. This is where we hugged each other and began to walk towards the edge of the cliff. Before we could take a few steps, S.I. Devan came back and stopped his jeep. He put his neck out from the driver's seat and said, "Guys, don't assume that the rum and beef helped you get your passports. It was my recommendation. He raised the right hand and the cliffhangers high-fived S.A. Devan. Remember, we are living in strange times and your identity is your enemy, he said and drove off. And at that moment, I realized with a touch of sadness, regret and helplessness that we can by no means undo our identity. We have to live with the indelible mark of the lost foreskin. That's what Musa says. So it's a political novel. So this is also political in another sense. Shall I? Anna, vaikano. Be frank. Karu thaleyundu njan Trivandrum poikkolam. Okay, I'm going to read the opening of Shamal Days. Shamal Days is unlike the Cliffhangers, which is set very much in Kerala. It's a Kerala story. Cliffhangers is a cosmopolitan story set in a newsroom in the Middle East, with characters from different nations, with different aspirations, different frustrations, anger, everything. You know, it's a group of expatriate men and women in that newsroom. And the background is Palestine and Gaza. So that is why I'm going to read this, because it sounds more of relevant. It was a Friday of violent street protest and shelling in Gaza. And Al Jazeera aired another tape of threat from the Taliban. Though Abbas signed off an edition calmly, Abbas is the protagonist, he's an editor. Though Abbas signed off on the edition calmly, despite the tension brewing within, he noticed that his fingers were shaking. All was not well. He had gone through the wire copies that with seasoned care and read through the lead story, which is cobbled together using details from different agencies, rewritten the lead headline and checked the edits. He knew that the troubles in Gaza and the threat of the Taliban were far off, but there was something intimate under his own skin that was beginning to crumble. Something was coming apart. Some peace was being disturbed. It was a strange contrary. It was not that he no longer had any reasons to live. On the contrary, he had discovered one. Looking at his trembling fingers for a brief moment, he thought of himself as a suicide bomber who, with explosives strapped into his body, experienced a sudden urge to live. Earlier in that day, a pregnant woman in a final trimester, wearing a black abaya, walked into a crowded marketplace in Haifa and blown herself up. Haifa is a city in Israel. Along with her and the baby in her womb, 12 men and 5 women, 4 of them American tourists, were shredded into unrecognizable pieces of burnt flesh. Fatima, the woman considered political issues more serious and precious than the promise of the baby in her womb, was a tall, honey-complexioned woman with fine features. A suicide note, a video clip, was also sent to Al Jazeera and was shown along with the horrifying visuals of thick grey smoke hemmed in by deep orange flames. This is a quote. "This is my revenge against the Zionists. This is my statement that we will not compromise an inch of our soil. The Jews are out of Palestine." With a gruesome suicide, she instigated rowdy protest among hundreds of young Arabs. Adrenaline gushed through their veins and passion and blinded their eyes. Her boldness challenged them to give up their life as easy as flicking cigarette butts. On the other hand, she made Israelis shudder in cold fear and colder unpredictability of life, which made them turn away from bustles of human crowd. She turned marketplaces into bloody traps and drove xenophobia deep into people's psyche. Sorry, it's very depressing, but then I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs more, then I'm done. Shall I?
Yes.
Right. It was on the bloodiest Friday since beginning of the second Intifada that Bhaskar and Ratnam were given a send-off party in the Mirror newsroom. It was a day when entire Gaza Strip was turned into an advanced stage of a computer game, covered in sputtering orange flames and grey smoke as the Israeli army and Palestinian fighters fired at each other, and a 12-year-old boy and his father were caught up in the crossfire. All this while, the office boy at the mirror was arranging food packets at the corner of the newsroom. The food packets had been delivered from the KFC situated on the Corniche. He stretched his arms, arched his body, yawned in relief after counting the packets. Arab television channels showed grabs from the France 2, which is a television channel, of the father and son taking shelter behind a cement cylinder, and the next moment an explosion. When the smoke cleared, the boy lay dead, flung across his father's legs. The father wailed, sinking his head in his hand, cursing his helplessness. All hell broke loose across Gaza. Wires and flashes, news wires and flashes and adversaries. Editors sat on the edge of their chairs and watched the news bulletin on television. Night editors rescheduled their stories. Commentary writers sharpened their wit and waxed their wisdom before hammering down on keyboards. Hundreds of Palestinians took the streets, carrying the dead body of the boy, screaming and shouting revenge slogans, baying for Israeli blood. As the first visuals came in on television, fixed the corner of the newsroom, everyone crowded in front of it. They watched in silence the boy's casket, draped in a Palestinian flag, being carried for burial. In that 12-year-old frail boy who tried to dodge the bullets fired by the Israelis by hiding behind his equally helpless father, the Palestinian fighters found what they wanted, a martyr. That's it. This is not, I don't take any sides of Palestine or Israel, but this is my observation of working in a newsroom in the Middle East. We used to, the end of the day when there is the Intifada was going, and the sub-editors will come to office and we have to do the pages, and we ask each other, what is the score? Which means how many, what is the death toll? For us, these are just numbers. We have to fill the pages with. So today this happened. And every Friday after the Jummah, the message, the Imam, and they out in Gaza. So we were far off, but though we were far off, we were so near doing these pages and getting involved. So my novel, Shamal Days, the background setting is the conflict in the region, Palestine and Israel. But it is not about that. It is about a group of people, their conflicts and frustration in a newsroom. I'm happy to say that recently Dr. Shashi Tharoor presented a 6-page paper on Shamal Days, why it should be read. So buy it and read if you find it. It could be a bit long-winding because it's, unlike the cliffhangers, this is not a breezy novel, it is a bit difficult, it is a bit of a character study of one person, his loneliness, his dilemmas. And thank you. I'm done. Yeah.
And when you write a novel like this, how much of it is actually fiction and how much of it is fact? Like, is there anything fictitious at all in this novel?
Oh, you are asking anything realistic at all or any fictitious at all? See, ma'am, this is, facts are the best fodder for fiction. We consume facts to write fiction. So many things happen, the real, but I change names, because my colleagues will chase me otherwise. Those who have worked with me can easily identify the characters I've portrayed. But it's a mix of facts and fiction. The safest way to write about the truth is in the form of fiction, especially the times that we live now. We can't say the truth or it's because of a political dispensation. It's nothing to blame anyone, but this is where we are. Writers are afraid to speak their mind, so we rely on fiction. So Shamal Days is a mix of facts and fiction, obviously, because a lot of things, a lot of characters. I've lived in the Middle East for 15 years. I've seen a lot of characters. I brought almost all of them into the book, trying to understand their life. There are Arabs, there are Africans, there are Russians, there are, Filipinos, and all sorts of Indians and Pakistanis in that book, so that is.
Sir, I would like to know your opinion on self-publishing. As of today, everybody can publish any work they write. So what is your opinion about that?
Sorry, I'll good that you asked, because I was toying whether I should self-publish my novels, because I believe in my stories, but I was getting rejected. But then it was Anis who told me, if your stories are good enough, let a mainstream publisher pick it up. There are ways to self-publish now, Notion Press and all that. They're good, but you have to pay them. But I don't think the marketing or the distribution will be that good. So it's the best is to get published by a mainstream publisher. The best, if you can't wait. There are my friends who have published Notion through Notion Press, but she's waiting for the, once you've done it, but you need recognition as a writer, recognition from a mainstream publisher. When I said, when my mother tell people that, a book publish it, I said, please don't say that. They will think that I publish my books. I don't. So there are kind of thing. But if there is no way, no option, go for it. But then I advise, go for mainstream publishing, however difficult it is.
Hi sir, thank you so much for a wonderful talk. It definitely inspired us to write. In fact, to pick up where we left something. And this is just out of curiosity. In fact, I don't know exactly, I don't know the definition at all, but does there any connection with the stream operating system?
No, not at all.
Now, my question is personal. When you write, when you write, I personally have a feeling that subtlety, the subtlety marks the craft, or it is the soul of the craft. So, but when you try to create something, following that particular rule, sometimes you feel that it is not going anywhere. There are a lot of gaps. So, how do you guide us in this?
Subtlety is definitely a good way of doing it. Sometimes it's better to say, sorry, ma'am. Sometimes, most of the time it is. It's good not to be loud, subtle way of saying things. I love that, but it also depends. Don't make it a rule, make it a tool. If you think that subtlety or subtle way of saying something is the best tool that you can apply there, do that. Don't make it a rule. Break that rule. Make it a tool. That as I said, these are rules to write. These are tools to write, not rules to follow. Sometimes you have to be, it depends on the tone of your writing. You have to be garish, you have to be loud, so it depends on the tone of your novel or whatever writing you are doing. Okay?
Yes, my question is simple. How do you get over writer's block?
Simple, the answer is simple, by writing. I hadn't written a word for the last few months, and for me, for a person, I'm a compulsive writer. I have a target of 1,500 words every day to write. It's a self-imposed target of writing 1,500 words, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter, but I have to write. For that kind of person, I couldn't write anything for the last few months. I was really getting tensed, and by one fine day, I started to write. It's just a passing phase, Don't think too much about it. You can use those, if you can't write, use that time to observe or do something, be creative, read. Don't worry about writing. Writing, if it is in you, it will come. It has to come. It's like water. You can't block it. You can block it for some time. It has to flow. So don't worry too much about writer's block. Yeah, sorry. So I'll use this to give to them. Yeah.
But we have readers from as well.
Readers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also happens.
Yeah. What would you do at that point?
Don't read. Don't think too much about all this. I have better things to worry in my life. I told you about my life. So I have to do a lot of stuff in my life, personal life, looking after kids, taking them to this place. So, but I know the tension building up. If I can't write, reading is fine. I observe people. I've observed a lot of people here. Okay, my way of writing, I fall back on my observation, people. But then reading, of course, that's your. But sorry, I can't give a writing block, but reading block, it'll come out of it. But make it a habit. That's sorry. I have an answer. Make it a habit. I want to tell all these youngsters, make reading a habit, please. If you ever want to write, read. There are 3 advices. Read, read, and read. Whatever. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Can I add on one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I also have the problem of not being able to read. So for some time, for a period of time, I won't be able to read. So I try to read at least Kalikurika.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you can't ഒരു നോവലൊന്നും വായിക്കാൻ ആ സമയത്ത് പറ്റില്ല, വളരെ ഡിപ്രസ്ഡ് ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ വലിയ അതിലും ഡിപ്രഷനുള്ള നോവല് വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല ആ സമയത്ത്. അപ്പോൾ കളിക്കൊടുക്ക വായിക്കും.
അതാണ് നല്ലത്. That's writing humor is the most difficult thing, Yeah.
Sir, do you think that writing is like a talent, like singing or drawing, that you can only do it if you have it by birth? Do you think that by doing some kind of writing exercises or writing whatever comes to your mind, good or bad or ugly, you can sort of foster your skills and finally end up writing something that is publishable and good?
Okay. What is the pursuit of writing? Learning what? Craft. If it is a craft, if it is a skill, it can be learned. Right? But obviously you need to have some urge, some itching, some way with language and words. Some people don't have. I have many friends who don't care about writing and reading, nothing. They can't. Nothing can be done about it. If you think you feel that, that's why you've taken humanities. That's why you are, in a literature class. So if that is a craft, of course. You keep, working on your, skill. That's what Roy Peter Clark, 50 writing tools. How to use the grammar rules into writing tools. I've got a lot of stuff. How to rearrange the words and see the difference. How to use subject and verb. Close by. If you take it around, apart, see the effect. Writing is all about effect. What effect does it make on a reader? So how can we play around the words and create the best effect that we want as a writer? So of course it's a skill, it's a craft. Otherwise I'm going to cross this out. Learning the craft. It is learning. But there are some people believe in writing workshop. Some people don't. Most of the Malayali writers here, they don't believe in that. They think they are born with some gift. So be it. So let them be blessed. We are all common people learning the craft. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was asking, thinking of the times that we are living in, it's precarious to be, the times are really precarious. So, writers are, sometimes, lynched and arrested on charges of sedition. Are you, at any point, scared of anything as a writer?
Yeah.
When you write?
See, we just talked about Perumal Murugan. You know what? He stopped writing. He said Perumal Murugan, the writer, has died. After there was an attack on him and the novel and everything. But after so many people persuaded him, he started writing. So if a writer like Perumal Murugan is silenced, we are living in such precarious times. We are scared, especially me, carrying a Muslim name. Even though I don't fit into that category, I'm scared because if they go by name, I can be, if the kind of writing I do, I can be easily targeted. Yes, we live. I remember a friend of mine is Unniyar, the writer, Malayalam writer. So we were at the Bangalore Literature Festival, and so Unni was on stage and I was with him, and someone asked him, Unni, are you afraid? As a writer, are you scared or afraid of the times? Unni said, yes, I have a mother, I have a wife and a daughter. I'm afraid of the times I live in. I have a paralyzed wife, 2 teenagers as children. I'm the only earning member of my family. I'm scared. This is not being foolish because I have to look after my family. As a writer, my primary duty is to be a human being and a family man. Right? I mean, I'm not being very... but ma'am, we have to find ways of, expressing ourselves, and, that's what I said. Fiction is the best way of calling out what is happening in this world. I think these two shall pass. That's what, very worried about India, but people say, more experienced people say, things will change, hopefully. Nothing drives human life like hope. So, yes.
So I have a question, and that is, we have this new trend of neo-apocalyptic or dystopian writing. If you even look at young adult genres or anything like that, you have this trend where the world is almost about to end, that kind of a vibe. And my question is, how can we depict it while representing the social reality of it? And also, if we depict it with the certain extent of social reality, the response is obviously, as ma'am mentioned, there's a danger in a writer's life and everything. So, how do we depict it subtly but yet powerfully?
No, that's where craft is, because I am a writer who believes in hope. I end both my novels with some hope. Shamal Days ends with the hope of the character, the protagonist, finding new meaning in his life. Cliffhangers, yes, you can't do anything about it, but that's life. That's identity you have to, live with. My next 2 novels also, that I can only talk about myself. I, as a writer, am very positive. Though we live in very bleak and, precarious times. Yes, it is. But we have to find ways. That's why our craft comes in. How skillful are you to call out certain things, yet not standing on people's toes, not rubbing on people's shoulders, so be it. So yes, we have to find ways. But there are some bold writers, and but everyone is. I'm moving around the literary circle around this country, but I know people are hush hush. You can't do, you can't write. Publishers are more than that. Publishers are really, really careful. They send cliffhangers to the legal department to get an opinion whether it is okay to publish. So publishers are very careful because they will be pulled up. So forget the writers. It has to be published. So publishers are very careful.
Question and slide put it is look at the topic, the learning craft, probably learning skill. Of course, you reply the Malayalam writers and Malayalam writers, because we are all writers. There's difference when you go to Bombay and things. Even the Maharashtrians will be minority and other Indians as well. Whereas here it is almost 99% we alone, quote unquote. So Malayalam, they are naturally dominant. For example, when Dilip Raj in the philosophy department was there. And as you are in Pinali, I remember before the COVID, when they had an all India type of seminar, they invited only one literary person, and that is Kalpata Narayana, because he's a poet. Because he says that Malayalam is so dominated by the literary figures here that the epistemological thing, the knowledge thing is dominated so much that they feel suffocated. Because their philosophy is basically as Wittgenstein. So it is the philosophy is, if I quote from a memory, philosophy is the struggle against the bewitchment of mind by means of language. So a journalist of mine, because I don't have time now, he was saying he was trying to, so 2 decades that he was trying to do a type of non-fiction, deep serious thing. So we are involved in it. So he pointed out this thing as that magical realism of Marquis and things, where the craft is so important. So whereas Wittgenstein and these people, instead of removing the literature away, bringing the thought back in, the epistemology and that backing. That is, for example, as Foucault tells in some passages in Foucault like that, this is highly creative, non-fiction. So this is the context I am asking. Yeah. And so here, Malayalam, because 2 weeks back in Malayalam department, Sarah Joseph was the valedictory session. So some teachers asked that, can you, they were probing her for what is your craft. So then I pointed out that it is a creative writing. They said that there is no creative writing course in India, whereas in Western America that is there. So your class is very, without saying that it's a creative writing course, it's actually something so beneficial to everybody here for a creative writing. But because it is not available here, because it is not a, what you call, you can't make a livelihood out of here for the students. That is why there is no course here. So in that way it's very, this thing is very beautiful. But having said that, that's rather than a question, it's just an observation, comment. And specifically, because I'm also from, maybe you're from your generation, a few decades back, there's in the small level, ഒരു കോൺട്രവേഴ്സി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പുള്ളി ഈ സ്കില്ലിൽ ഇത് ചെയ്തു. അപ്പോൾ പുള്ളിയുടെ മുമ്പുണ്ടായിരുന്ന ജനറേഷൻ തകഴി, മറ്റുള്ളവരൊക്കെ ബഷീർ, അനുഭവമാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. പണ്ട് കണ്ടന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഫോമിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ളത് കാര്യം. അപ്പോൾ പുള്ളി ഇതും മതി, പുള്ളി ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി വരെയായി റിട്ടയർ ചെയ്ത, പക്ഷേ IAS ആണ്. പുള്ളി ഇതിൽ ഊന്നിയാണ്, റൈറ്റിങ്ങിലാണ് ഊന്നിയിട്ട് പുള്ളി ഒരു ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ എഴുതിയിരുന്നു ബഷീറിനെ കുറിച്ച്. ബഷീർ MP വിജയൻ മോഹൻലാലിൽ നിന്ന് വ്യത്യസ്തമായിട്ട് ബഷീർ റൈറ്റിംഗ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് A-list author അല്ല, ഹീസ് എ നമ്പർ 1 എമംഗ് ദ B-list എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നില്ല, ഒരു കോൺട്രവേഴ്സി. അപ്പോൾ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ചുകൂടി അത് ഇപ്പോൾ വരുന്ന ലാസ്റ്റ് ഫ്യൂ ഡെക്കേഡ്സിലുള്ള റൈറ്റിംഗ് ബഷീറിന് വേറെ രീതിയിലാണ് കാണുന്നത്. ആ പഴയ രീതിയിലുള്ള ഫോം കണ്ടിട്ടുള്ളതല്ല. അപ്പോൾ പുള്ളി കൊണ്ടുപോയി MP വിജയനൊക്കെ ആ ഹൈറ്റ്സിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ. ബഷീർ എല്ലാവരും പറയുമെങ്കിലും പുള്ളി ആ ഹൈറ്റ്സിലുള്ള, അത് ആരും പറയാറില്ല, അതൊരു ഹൈലി അറിയാമല്ലോ. ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ ഞങ്ങളൊക്കെ യങ്ങായിരുന്നു, പുള്ളി ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു സാധനം കൊണ്ടല്ലേ. അപ്പൊ ഈ ഇതിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കൊള്ളാം. ബിക്കോസ് ഇതേപോലെ ഡോസ്റ്റോവ്സ്കിയും ആൻഡ് അരുന്ധതി റോയ് 10 കൊല്ലം അവർ മലയാളത്തിലാക്കാൻ സംഭവിച്ചില്ല. അപ്പൊ 2011 തുടക്കത്തിൽ ഇവിടെ അവരിത് മലയാളത്തിലാക്കി. പ്രിയാണ് അത് ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തത്, ഞങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നപ്പോൾ. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഈ ചോദ്യം അവരോട് ചോദിച്ചത്, അവർ ഒരു ദിവസം എഴുതുന്നത് ഫ്യൂ സെന്റൻസ് മാത്രം, എക്സ്ക്യൂസിറ്റ് റൈറ്റിംഗ്. എന്റെ വേറെ ജേർണലിസ്റ്റ് ഫ്രണ്ട് ചൂണ്ടിക്കാണിച്ചത്. അറ്റ് ദി സെയിം ടൈം ഡോസ്റ്റോവ്സ്കിയുടെ ചില റൈറ്റിംഗ്, ഞാൻ അതിന്റെ എക്സ്പെർട്ട് അല്ല, ചിലത് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വളരെ മോശമാക്കാൻ പോലീസ്. ചില നോവലിലേക്ക് ചില പാരഗ്രാഫിൽ ചില ചാപ്റ്റേഴ്സിന്റെ എടുത്ത് വരാം, ബട്ട് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഗ്രേറ്റ് തിങ്. സോ വെസ്റ്റേൺ കാനലിൽ അവർ പറഞ്ഞ് അരുന്ധതി റോയ് ശോഭാദ വന്നപ്പോൾ ശോഭാദ എഴുതാൻ വേണ്ടി വരുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ അപ്പോൾ ശോഭാദ ഈസ് ആൾവേസ് നെവർ കമ്പയർഡ് വിത്ത് ഡോസ്റ്റോവ്സ്കി. പക്ഷെ അരുന്ധതി വന്നപ്പോൾ മാസ്റ്റർലി റൈറ്റിംഗ് ആണ്, നോട്ട് അറ്റ് ദ ലെവൽ ഓഫ് ഡോസ്റ്റോവ്സ്കി. നിങ്ങൾ അപ്പം ഞാനിതൊക്കെ ചോദിച്ചാൽ അവർ വേറെ രീതിയിലാണ് അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ രണ്ട് എന്റെ സ്മാധം പറഞ്ഞത് ഈ പോയിന്റ് അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ്. നിങ്ങൾ ഓരോരുത്തർ ക്രാഫ്റ്റ് പഠിപ്പിക്കും, വെരി ഗുഡ്. അത് മലയാളം ഇല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് അപ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് വെരി ഗുഡ് തിങ്. അറ്റ് ദി സെയിം ടൈം ഈ സാധനത്തിനൊന്ന് അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്താൽ പോലെ എന്റെ സ്മാധവന്റെ പിന്നെ അരുന്ധതിയോട് ഇത് എക്സ്ക്യൂസിവ് റൈറ്റിംഗ്, ഡെയിലി 3 സെന്റൻസ് എഴുതുന്നു. അതേസമയം പഴയ മാസ്റ്റേഴ്സിന്റെ ഡോസ്റ്റോവ്സ്കി ചിലപ്പോൾ പൂർ റൈറ്റിംഗ് ആണ്. പക്ഷേ താങ്കൾ ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, ഡൗൺ തിങ്ക് പെട്ടെന്ന് വരും. ആ സാധനം ഭയങ്കര എക്സ്പീരിയൻസിലൂടെ വരുമ്പോൾ ഭീകര സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ കയറി വരും.
അല്ല സാർ, ഇത് ഇറ്റ് ഡിപ്പെൻഡ്സ്, ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി സബ്ജക്റ്റീവ്. എനിക്ക് 3 സെൻറ്റൻസ് എഴുതി എൻ്റെ നോവൽ തീരൂല എപ്പോഴും. ഐ ഹാവ് ടു റൈറ്റ് 1500. ദാറ്റ്സ് എ ടാസ്ക് ഐ സെറ്റ് ഫോർ മൈസെൽഫ്. അത് നല്ലതാണോ ചീത്തയാണോ എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ഞാൻ അരുന്ധതി റോയ് അല്ല, ഞാനൊരു സാധാരണ ഒരു കോമൺ മാൻ റൈറ്ററാണ്. ഞാൻ നോട്ട് എ ബുദ്ധിജീവി. അതല്ല ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലേ സർ, ഐ ഹാവ് നോ പ്രിറ്റൻഷൻ ടു ബി ബുദ്ധിജീവി. ഐ റൈറ്റ് ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ഹാവ് ടു റൈറ്റ്. ഐ ലവ് റൈറ്റിംഗ്. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഞാനൊരു 1500 വാക്കുകളാണ് ഒരു ദിവസം എൻ്റെ ടാർഗറ്റ്. അത് ഞാൻ അച്ചീവ് ചെയ്യണം. അതിനെ ഞാൻ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഡേ എഡിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയും വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യും അതിനകത്ത്. ദാറ്റ്സ് ഹൗ ഐ വർക്ക്. സോ I don't know anything other than that. I know NS. They're all, I know because of as a curator I work with all of them. പക്ഷേ എനിക്ക് അവരെ റൈറ്റിങ്ങിലോട്ട് കമൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ഉണ്ടെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നില്ല. ബിക്കോസ് I'm not, ഞാൻ വളരെ റിയലിസ്റ്റിക് പറയാം സാർ. I'm a beginner as a writer. I only have 2 books out. അവർക്കൊക്കെ ഇഷ്ടംപോലെ ബുക്കുണ്ട്. അല്ല, എൻ്റെ കാര്യം എനിക്കറിയാവുള്ളൂ. ഞാൻ അവരൊന്നും റൈറ്റിംഗ് പാറ്റേണിൽ നോക്കിയിട്ടില്ല. വിത്ത് ഡ്യൂ റെസ്പെക്ട് ഫോർ യാസ്, എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ ഇതേ പറയാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. ബിക്കോസ് ഇതാണ് ശരിയെന്ന് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നില്ല. ചിലപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളൊരു 3 സെൻറ്റൻസാണ് എഴുതുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ദാറ്റ്സ് വർക്ക്. ഇഫ് ദാറ്റ് വർക്ക്സ് ഫോർ ദാം ഇറ്റ്സ് ഫൈൻ. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കാര്യം, ഞാൻ ഒരു 1500 വേർഡ്സ് വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് എനിക്ക് പ്രൊഡക്റ്റീവ് ആവാൻ വേണ്ടി. എനിക്ക് റൈറ്റിംഗ്, എനിക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് ബ്രെത്ത്. ഐ നീഡ് ടു റൈറ്റ്. അത് പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യാനോ മഹത്തായി ഇത് എഴുതാനല്ല. ഇറ്റ്സ് മൈ സർവൈവൽ ടൂൾ കിറ്റ്, റൈറ്റിംഗ്. ഞാൻ ആദ്യമേ പറഞ്ഞു, ദാറ്റ്സ് വൈ ഐ ഗേവ് an example from my personal life. ഞാൻ ഈ പറയുന്നത് എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്? ബിക്കോസ് എനിക്ക് റൈറ്റിംഗ് ആണ് എനിക്ക് ഹോപ്പ് തന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഐ എം നോട്ട് കോൺട്രിബ്യൂട്ടിങ് ടു ദി ഗ്രേറ്റ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ, ഐ എം കോൺട്രിബ്യൂട്ടിങ് ടു ദ കോമൺ ഇത്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് സാർ എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ഓണസ്റ്റ്ലി, ഇഫ് I was privy to their writing life, I would have commented, but I don't know. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, while writing a novel, when beginning to write a novel, does it really begin from a central idea and develop the other parts of the story and characters and like that?
Yeah. So
is it like that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I got your point. There should be an idea. So if there is no idea, there is no novel. മനസ്സിലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ലൂസ് ഔട്ട്ലൈൻ ഉണ്ടാവണം. Even though you don't have a chapter by chapter structure, that is okay. Some people plan the novel, entire novel plan ചെയ്തിട്ട് chapter by breakdown ചെയ്ത് then they write. As I said, ഇത് ഓരോരുത്തരും ഇതുപോലെ. ചിലർ they have an idea, this is a novel, and start writing, things happen. അത് ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സ് വരും, ചാപ്റ്റേഴ്സ് വരും, നമ്മളെ കൊണ്ട് എഴുതിപ്പിക്കും. The writing will make us write. അത് സംഭവിക്കും.
Yes, sir. One more question. Sir, when we start writing, as initial writers sometimes feel stuck in during the course of writing. Maybe one of the events may be leading us to write, and after that we feel what next to write, how to continue it. There is a confusion happening in the writing. How to face such a situation?
അല്ല, അപ്പോൾ അതാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, മിഡ് നോവൽ ക്രൈസിസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സാധനം അതാ. ബിക്കോസ് നമുക്ക് എഴുതി വരും, പിന്നെ അറിഞ്ഞൂടെ ഇത് ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറി ആണെങ്കിൽ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാമായിരുന്നു. നോവൽ എഴുതി തുടങ്ങിയും പോയി ഇത് അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാനും പറ്റുന്നില്ല. സോ ദെൻ യു ഫൈൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് വേ യു ഫൈൻഡ് ദിസ്, ഐ ക്യാൻ ഡെവലപ്പ് ദിസ്. സംടൈം യു റീഡ് എ നോവൽ, ചില ചാപ്റ്റേഴ്സിന് ആവശ്യമില്ല, ഇല്ലെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമൊന്നുമില്ല. ബട്ട് ദാറ്റ്സ് ബീങ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദി നോവൽ. ഇറ്റ്സ് എ നോവൽ. സോ ദെൻ യു തിങ്ക് ക്രിയേറ്റീവ്ലി, ഇവിടെ എനിക്ക് ഏത് വലുതാക്കാൻ പറ്റും, ദെൻ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് തിങ്കിങ് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. പിന്നെ ഇതൊരു പ്രാക്ടീസാണ്, ഇറ്റ്സ് സ്കിൽ. അതാ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്. ഇതൊരു ആ ഫോമുല പിടികിട്ടി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ദെൻ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഈസി ടു റൈറ്റ്. ആദ്യം വന്നിരിക്കും ഇപ്പോൾ പെയിൻറ്റേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ടല്ല, ബിഫോർ ദേ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് പെയിൻറ്റിങ് ദേ ഹാവ് സം ലൂസ് ബ്രഷ് സ്ട്രോക്സ്. അത് ആ ഒരു ടു ഗെറ്റ് ഇൻ ടു ദ ഗ്രൂവ്, അങ്ങനെ വെച്ചിട്ടാണ്.
Respected Chief Guest, teachers and dear friends. On behalf of PG Department of English, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to each one of you for your presence, which made the occasion beautiful. Your enthusiasm and engagement have undoubtedly added immense value to this gathering. I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Sabin Iqbal sir for sharing ideas on the topic creative writing and publishing, and for inspiring us all. Thank you, sir. thanks to those who participated in the discussion, which made the session lively. I would like to extend our courtesy to our dearest HOD, Dr. Rekha Karim, and our most dearest, Dr. Manjusha ma'am, the coordinator of this workshop, for their time and effort they have put in this program, which made this program a grand success. And special appreciation to all the attendees for your active participation, which made, without which the program or the session wouldn't have been success. And I hope that the knowledge we gained from today's section will be helpful in the future. Thank you once again. Thank you all.